Hi everyone, this is Nathan Chua from One Life Only Counseling Services. And for those of you again who are new, uh, my website is onelifeonly.net. Please feel free to visit so you can find out more about what I do and what I can do to help you. So today I'm going to start a series. It's called Act at the Movies. So welcome to Act at the Movies, Finding Meaning on Screen. This is a series where we take some of the world's most memorable films and look at them through the lens of acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT for short. Now, just a few caveats, or just a quick caveat. I'm not saying these movies were written with ACT in mind, but what ACT offers is a scientific framework, a way of understanding resilience, meaning, and growth that shows up in the stories we love. Movies capture the struggles and choices that make us human. ACT helps us see the science behind why those struggles matter and how people find the strength to move forward. So grab your popcorn and let's dive in. So before I begin, let me just make that caveat again. I'm not here to say that the writers and directors are actors of the Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if most of you know about this movie. It's available on, I think, Google TV right now for rental or purchase. We're in any way informed by ACT or ACT therapy or acceptance and commitment therapy. Rather, what I want to share is how ACT, as a scientific model of therapy, gives us a framework to understand something timeless, human resilience. Okay? Now, the Shawshank Redemption is often remembered for hope. Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, as Andy said. Andy is the lead character in the movie. But when you look, it's a story about a guy who got unjustly imprisoned because he was accused of killing his wife, which turned out to be false. But when we look through the ACT lens, what we actually see are processes of psychological flexibility, the capacity to stay present, open to difficult emotions, and move toward what matters, even in the hardest of circumstances. So let's talk about how this movie portrays acceptance and willingness. Andy is wrongly imprisoned and his suffering is immense. A purely control based strategy would be fighting, resisting, shutting down. That could have consumed him. Instead, he embodies acceptance. He allows the pain of his situation to be there while still choosing to act with dignity and purpose. This doesn't mean approval or passivity. Acceptance in act means dropping the struggles with emotions we can't eliminate and instead putting energy into what we can build. Next would be number two, values as compass. And the values freedom, justice, and friendship. You can see that in the movie. Those values guide him through years of confinement. His work in the library, he helped improve the library. His mentorship of Tommy, his efforts to bring dignity to the prisoners. Tommy is one of the other prisoners, so he gave dignity to them. All of these flow from what matters to him most, because he was an accountant by profession, and he did practice those inside his jail cell or inside the jail. Act teaches us that when life narrows, values can open a path forward, even in a prison cell, and he lives by a compass bigger than his circumstances. Number three, diffusion from thoughts. Red Andy's closest friend, often voices thoughts of despair. So Red is kind of in the probably two-thirds of the movie or three-fourths of the movie, he was kind of the counterpiece to what Andy represented. Red said, "Hope is a dangerous thing. It can drive a man insane." Those are believable and sticky thoughts, especially in prison. Yet the act invites us to notice thoughts as thoughts, not literal truths that must dictate our actions. Andy doesn't deny the despair, so it's not about escaping from reality, but he doesn't fuse with it either. He chooses to hold hope lightly and act on it rather than be consumed by thoughts of hopelessness. Number four, committed action. The most iconic example, Andy's years of digging through the prison wall. He doesn't know when or if he will succeed, but each day, with patience and persistence, he takes committed action aligned with his values. That's psychological flexibility in practice, consistent steps, even when outcomes are uncertain. I want to add this. One of the most powerful but often overlooked parts of Andy's story is how he responds to sexual abuse in prison. The film doesn't sensationalize it, but it shows us enough to know that Andy suffered deeply at the hands of others. What stands out is that he doesn't let this experience define him. He doesn't collapse in despair. He doesn't wallow in self pity. He doesn't passively allow the abuse to strip away his dignity. Instead, Andy keeps moving. He resists where he can. He protects his sense of self and he continues to build toward freedom. So it doesn't mean that we are masochists or Andy just gave up and surrendered to his abusers. From an act perspective, this is a striking example of committed action. The pain was real, the trauma was real, but Andy chose not to let it dictate the direction of his life. He kept moving toward his values, dignity, freedom, and hope, even in the harshest of conditions. That's the heart of psychological flexibility. Not the absence of suffering, but the courage to keep walking toward what matters, even in the darkest circumstances. In closing, when we look at the Shawshank Redemption through the lens of ACT, we see a scientific framework for resilience, acceptance of pain, diffusion from despairing thoughts, values as a compass, committed action, step by step toward freedom. I believe it took him 19 years before he can dig himself out of prison. It's not that Andy or Red were ACT informed, but ACT helps us to understand why their stories resonate so deeply. It reflects universal processes of human growth and survival. So, if you enjoyed this reflection on a movie, I'll keep doing more in this series. I'll be doing more short talks on ACT and movies and exploring how science and storytelling come together to show us what resilience looks like or what a meaningful and purposeful life would look like. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.